with the recording. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Free Friday coaching call. For those of you I might be meeting for the first time, either live or on the recorded replay, as this goes out to literally hundreds of people. This is Casey Council Jiha, and I actually love doing these calls because I am getting to learn and meet incredible people at a totally different level as a result of being able to interview them. So these calls originally started off as Rick's Free Friday coaching calls in an effort to have a one-to-many conversation because the one-to-one created a capacity issue with him going everywhere and handing his phone number out and saying, if you need me, call me for anything. And he originally created these calls to be able to help his friends with a combination of mindset and skill set in real estate to keep moving, keep growing, and continue on in the journey of becoming the best version of themselves and, of course, the impact they can make for their clients in the world. And so since his passing in October of 2023, we've kept these going, and I'm so grateful for the people like the woman that we have today that have raised their hand and been willing to volunteer to share wisdom and experience for the greater collective whole and good of our real estate community. So I'm super excited to have our guest on the call today. For those of you that don't know her, she's a high performance agent, team leader, and business coach. She's based out of the Tacoma, Washington market. And like many people in real estate, at some point, if you haven't had this happen in your career yet, you may have it happen. But she crashed, due to burnout. And so with that, completely transformed her business and increased her profits by 3 times in just 18 months. And her passion really today is around helping people build sustainable businesses, leverage AI, and help agents to create a fulfilling career and life. And so she is absolutely dedicated to the success of other people. She leads by example. I had the pleasure of getting to know her better in a retreat just last month here in California, and I love her passion and her spark and her zest for life and for business. And so with that, Lynea, welcome to the call. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So happy to have you here. All right. So I know that many people that are on this call don't know you. So just to kind of get everyone up to speed on you, would love for you to start off sharing what you were doing before real estate, ultimately why you chose the industry, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so before real estate, I had this, I like to say it, I was a master of corporate America. I worked for a big, large luxury retail department store, and I worked there for 12 years. So in 12 years, I got to experience a lot of different roles, sales, marketing, merchandising, leadership, item allocation, buy planning, business process improvement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So lots and lots of things. I ultimately got into real estate because I learned real fast that the corporate side of that world was not for me. I like people way too much. I like leading people way too much. And my mom had actually been in real estate for my whole life. And but it was inevitable. One day I was going to follow into her footsteps, right? I mean, it's just going to happen. So that's why I got in, because I really read Tony Robbins' book, Money, Master the Game. And in that book, it said, you need to figure out how to make an extra $500 a month. And I said, okay, well, Tony, you know what you're talking about. So let me figure out how to make $500 a month. So I asked my mom if I could make an extra $500 a month selling real estate. And she said, yes. And I said, cool. So that's why I got into real estate. And here I am. I got in, I got my first hook. I got hooked on it when I sold my first house, and I'm been unstoppable ever since.
Love it. So you are clearly somebody that is internally motivated.
Mhm.
And, I always say that you can't teach somebody to be hungry. They're either hungry or they're not. And when someone's hungry, they have that internal drive to go succeed, right? And people that have that will be willing to fail over and over and over again, willing to have it not have to look perfect, willing to fall down and just get up and go like, okay, I learned and now I'm going to keep going. So as you entered, because we've got different people at different stages in their careers that are on this call. So as you started and really were both feet in the deep end of the pool, like I like to say, in the industry and in the business, talk about, your early days and then your progression to, what happened that had you reach burnout and the impact that that was having in every area of your life. Because I believe that when those kind of things happen in life, they're a wake up call, right? And we'll talk about what you did differently on the other side of it, of course. But when we say that, we can look back and say, oh, well, if we look back and we can connect the dots, and just like there's a formula for success, there's also a formula for burnout. It's really easy to hit burnout in this industry. And everybody can hit it in a different way, but some people may not know that they're on the path or the track to burnout. So tell us what as you came into the industry, uh, first of all, what year that was that you were, started full-time in that space, and then what that journey was for you to see the success you were seeing and ultimately hit that wall.
Okay, so I got my license in 2018, and I went full time in the business February 7th of 2020. So what happened in 2020? Like March 1st, 2020, so literally 23 days later, the entire world changed as I knew it. And so that time was a time in the industry when it was kind of easy to make money. Like it was kind of easy to get business really during that time. I mean, my first year, in 2019, as a part-time real estate agent, I sold 15 homes. And so when I went full-time in 2020, I was like, okay, well, I sold 15 as a part-time agent. Let's just see what I can do as a full-time agent. And 2020 just kind of like came. And I was literally taking every single lead that came to me. I invested in a coaching program, which taught me everything I know today about digital marketing. I invested in that. And so that started working for me. On top of that, I'm just a relationship person. So I had a lot of relationships. I was doing a lot of social media. I mean, I did everything. So when I first got into the business, I was taking business everywhere. I was saying yes to everybody because I just wanted to sell as many houses as possible, because I thought that was the only way you get recognized in this industry, is just to sell more houses, get more business, make more money, sell more volume, do more transactions, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's kind of like my first couple years full time in this business. I just all in. I think second year I sold, first year I sold 15, second year I sold 30 homes, third year I sold 35 homes. And that was just as a part-time, or not part-time, as a sole agent. So pretty busy.
Yeah, and so the beauty of that, right? There's benefits and drawbacks to everything, right? And the beauty of that is that when you compress time, energy, and effort into a shorter window of time, you shorten your learning curve,
Yeah.
right? So what would otherwise take you years to have gotten an experience and learning as a result of you being fully committed and being fully focused on that, you were able to do a great amount of business in those first 3 years and really accelerate and shorten the learning curve of what it looks like to be a great top performing agent, right? And we talk so often about the 4 different stages of a real estate agent's career. It's that new agent that comes into the business and says, okay, how do I learn to be a great real estate agent? And, usually first milestone for everyone is how to make 100 grand a year, how to make 6 figures a year. And then milestone number 2 is, okay, how do I go from making, 100 grand a year to 100 grand a year to 100 to 500 grand a year in that second stage. And then third stage being, okay, I'm completely burned out. How do I keep making the same money with a better quality of life? And then stage 4 is like the significance. What am I going to do around my purpose in that stage? And so you went from stage 1 to stage 2 in your first 3 years, which is incredible because you shortened that runway. And also, kind of the inevitable happens, and we hit walls and we burn out and we crash. So talk about what that felt like, how you knew you were in burnout, what areas of your life were being impacted, and ultimately what was the wake up call?
So, I essentially the first sign that I figured I was burning out was I was just tired all the time. I was tired, and I was making excuses for being tired. I was like, "Oh, but it's okay. I'm helping other people change their lives." It was so much about other people, because I thought that was like what we were supposed to do. I mean, I didn't know that it was okay in real estate at that time to say it's not about other people, it's about me. I didn't know that. And so I was just saying like literally so much yes to everyone else. Um, but what kind of like brought me to it, like ultimately my wake up call, if you will, was twofold. First was a financial wake up call. The second was an emotional wake up call. The first emotional wake up call was I tell this story. Sometimes I cry and sometimes I don't. So we'll just see how it goes today. It was 2021. It was toward the end of the year or middle of the year. And I mean, I was just, I don't know, 30 days probably going 13, 14, 15 hours a day. Just like, I mean, not even going like on my business, like in my business. Like I was only in my business for that long. And I get home one day and my husband was in the garage and he looked so upset. Like I just never seen this like look in his eyes. And ultimately what happened was he just was like, dude, I never see you anymore. We were just married. We got married in 2019. He's like, we just got married 2 years ago, and I've seen you less since we got married than I've ever seen you in my life. And he was like, and quite frankly, like, I don't want to be married to someone that I'm not going to see. So we have to figure this out. And so for me, I was kind of like, okay. I mean, I'm still like, we're 2 years in, like, there's like, this, what? Right. And so I get a little mad at him. Of course, it's going to cause a little bit of friction. But ultimately, that was kind of the wake up call because I was like, okay, I love my husband. So my marriage was really being impacted by my work. My marriage was really being affected by other people. And so that was the very first thing. The second piece of it was the financial wake up call. So at the end of 2021, I had made $500,000 that year. It was a fantastic year. And when I posted my P&L at the end of the year, it said negative $37,000. And like, I'm like, whoa. So that was like a huge, huge thing for me because like for me, I was like, dude, I did not get in this business to spend that much freaking money. And I didn't really know where my money was going is the worst part because I was just saying yes to literally everything. Like I just had to spend money to make money. And so there was kind of those two big things that all of a sudden it was just like, okay, something has to shift.
Those are two very big things. Really big things.
Mhm.
And so there's, there's this concept of a breakthrough doesn't happen until you have a breakdown. And nobody ever wants to have the breakdown because breakdowns feel terrible. Um,
Yeah.
but if you start to understand that, every breakdown is setting you up for a breakthrough, and that sometimes things have to fall apart to come together, back together even better than they were before. We go on this premise of like, well, I come from the place of everybody's doing the best that they know how to do, given the tools and resources they have available to them in the moment. And sometimes like I would say, I would guess you felt like you were doing your best. And then you got feedback
Mhm.
that it's not the intended outcome, even though it feels like you're doing your best. Right. And so then is like the breakdown, which is particularly, I think, as real estate agents and entrepreneurs, when we are leaving it all on the field and giving 1,000% of ourselves to other people, to our career, to the success that we want to have, and like literally leaving it all on the field where you don't have one more ounce left to give. And then you look at 500 grand that you make in the business and a negative 37,000 on your P&L, and your husband of 2 years going like, yeah, why do we need to be married if I'm not going to see you? Those are like the opposite of what you would be intending, given all of the time, energy, and effort that you're spending to work and create what you're working to create. And so I think that for anybody that's on the call that hasn't hit that point yet or had that happen, a lot of people will have that happen or something like that happen and go, yeah, this isn't for me. I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing, or I'm just, not going to do this, or I'm going to settle for less than I want and actually deserve because the cost associated with this is too high. But people that are high performance people like you and other people on this call will look at that and go, okay, no judgment. What's working? Where do I need to improve? what's working, where do I need to improve, and take every one of those breakdowns now as how do we pivot and improve and make this better? Because I'm not going to throw my hat in the ring and be done. I'm going to stay in the ring and keep going and going better than I have been before. And it's this growth mindset versus I'm a success or I'm a failure, right? I'm constantly in growth. So I think that, this is like the pivotal turning point. And for people that are, listening in that may be able to relate to this in some way, shape, or form, or maybe feeling like that right now, or have felt like that in the past, or are on a trajectory where you may be feeling that in the future or having this happen in the future. I think if we can all just be in a place of acceptance that this is not a good thing or a bad thing, it's a thing that's a feedback mechanism that is there as an opportunity to continue to grow and evolve to become better and better. So you're at this place, 500 grand that you've made for the year, working your tail off with a negative 37,000 on the P&L and now a new marriage that's on the rocks because of so much of your time, energy, and effort being in the business. What happens next? And obviously, I mean, we're going to be here talking about it today, but there was a whole path forward that I think everyone, if you haven't been like super focused, get super focused right now, because the path forward is going to be the important part that could prevent you from going into that kind of crash or breakdown burnout. But also, if you're in it, can help you manage through and out of it. So what was the path forward from the moment where everything broke down?
So that was where I had to go back to my corporate leadership hat. So I kind of briefly touched on my leadership in corporate, but one of my most fun jobs I ever had, most fun jobs I ever had. Like if I were to not be in real estate, I would just do that forever, but I could never do it again. But and it was when I had a team. So you say a department store, but people don't realize that when you're working at a department store, like departments within department stores are stores themselves. I had a department that had 200 people. I had a team of 200 people. And I had SKUs, like SKUs are little items. I had over 1,500 SKUs at an average price point of $26. So I kind of like went back to those roots, because when I first stepped into that role, like it was kind of like a burnout role it was kind of like a burnout area or a burnout time for that department, where like within the first 90 days, like 75% of the team had left. 75% of the team had left. They were like, okay, we don't like you, new manager. We don't like you. We don't like any changes. We don't like anything. And they took off. And so I had to, like, at that time, I had to stop. I had to reevaluate what I was doing, and I had to change my approach. And so that's exactly what I did in my real estate business. I essentially fired myself from my job. I said, you know what? Lynea, you suck right now. This is not where you want to be. You did not get into this business to create this. This is not like, this type of behavior is not going to get us our ultimate goal. I kind of took myself out of the situation and looked at it as a business owner. And I said, okay, as a business owner, what I need is I need someone who's here dedicated every day, but is taking care of themselves. Because if they're not taking care of themselves first, they're definitely not taking care of the business. And so I had to do that. I fired myself. I literally looked in the mirror and I said, you're fired and you can't come back until you have completely shifted your mindset, shifted your behavior, and you're ready to start fresh. And so I did. And it took a day. Like I was literally like I'm a high driver, right? You probably get that. I'm a very high energy person. I don't like to waste time. I have no time to waste. So I'm like, okay, it took me less than a day. And I woke up the next day and I came back in. I was like, all right. I grabbed my P&L and I went through and I like literally studied every single dollar that I spent that year. And I added it all up. And I was like, whoa, $350,000 on marketing. Okay. Whoa, is that necessary? Is that necessary? And the thing is, like, when I looked at that, $350,000 on marketing, I was like, what actually return did I get from that marketing? Where did my business actually come from? And digging into that, I learned that my business actually came from relationships. No surprise. My business actually came from the people I already knew. It came from working in corporate America for 12 years. I had so many people over a period of 12 years. I had 200 people that at one point reported to me, saw me as their leader, came to me for encouragement. And I started reaching out to them. I started connecting with them and just being like, hey, how have you been since we left? And that's essentially what I did. I got rid of all the stuff. I got rid of all the stuff. I cut out all my marketing. I got rid of coaches. I got rid of programs. I got rid of everything and basically started from ground zero. And that's how the rebuild started.
Wow. So there's a few things you said. Number one, the difference of working in your business versus on your business. And that, that dreaded question that's one of the best questions you could ever ask, which is, would I hire me?
The answer was no.
And the answer was no. So you fired yourself for
Mhm.
a day
Per day.
to go do a total reset, right? And I think why that's what is so important in that, and there's so much learning in that, is so often we want to make the problem something outside of ourselves, something in the environment or a condition or about other people, and you took 100% responsibility and looked at it from a place of 100% responsibility as a business owner and said, what does this business need? This business needs somebody that's going to first and foremost take care of themselves. And if they take care of themselves, the business will be taken care of. And that is such a huge acknowledgement and learning, particularly when it's so easy to just run commission after commission after commission, throw money at stuff and spread ourselves completely thin to where we get to this place of burning out because we aren't taking care of ourselves. So that is a courageous thing to do, and taking that ownership and that responsibility and then go, okay, great. Now, if I'm going to change it, what's it going to look like moving forward? And being willing to make radical change, because of, and sometimes like we don't want to do that. We just want to make a little change here and a little change there. And let's see if we tweak this one thing. And it takes courage to just scrap it and go back to the drawing board and go, no, I'm going to go create from a new foundation, really clear on what the vision is, how I'm going to be in that, who I'm going to be in that, and then what's going to happen as a result of that. So, and for everybody that's listening, like there's no shame in that. It takes so much courage to have that level of honesty with ourselves. And then once we are that honest with ourselves, be willing to actually do something radically different in some cases. So, let's talk about the rebuild, right? And everybody can relate with starting from ground zero or building and then crashing and burning, and then the rebuild, right? And we learn those things when there's the crash and the burn. So how did you rebuild differently, and what did that look like specifically? I know there's so many great nuggets that you have to share of what people will be able to integrate based on what you've learned from experience.
Yeah. And I would say, like, to kind of speak to your point about courage, I think that that was something that was also, yeah, it takes a lot of courage to just look at yourself and not look at yourself at the same time. Because like I had to pull myself out of the business and realize this isn't, I am the problem, I am the business, but I had to start looking at myself and my business as two separate things. And I think that's kind of that's how the rebuild started, is like looking at it and saying, okay, what does a business need to be successful? Like if we think about it, there's a few things it needs. It needs, first of all, profit. Okay, that's a big one. It needs profit. It needs a business owner, a business owner. It needs a business manager. It needs a business operator, right? You need kind of three different things. And unfortunately, in real estate, sometimes we try to be all three of those things at the same time, and we don't actually manage our time effectively to say, okay, this is when I'm going to be an owner or a visionary, however you want to look at it. This is when I'm going to be an operator, working in the business, showing homes, whatever. And this is when I'm going to be the business manager, right? And I'm going to oversee some of the things that are actually happening and fix some of the things that are actually happening. So the very first thing I did was start taking control of my time. I learned real fast that having control of my time meant that I actually had more time. I meant that time, I learned real quick that like taking control of my time was helping me build a really robust system, really robust habits that were going to lead to leverage, uh, financial freedom. Financial freedom was like the biggest thing for me. And it was also going to provide some consistency in my business because ultimately that's really what it's all about. And so building that initial system of how I was going to take control of my time was the very first step. The second step was really understanding that my business came from relationships. So I was like, okay, I created this vision and I said, okay, am I going to have the ability to build my business entirely off of relationships that I don't have to pay for? Right? Because I'm trying to solve two things, right? I'm trying to solve the money that I spent and also the relationships that I was missing. Um, because the one thing I also forgot to tell you during the whole like burnout phase was not only was my marriage suffering, but you guys, I've had friends for like 20 years who no longer invited me to events anymore. I was no longer invited out to for a social hour or anything. And so I had to fix those things too. So, and like that kind of sucks when you're like 20 years of friendships is just kind of gone because nothing happened other than you just weren't present anymore. You just didn't have time for it anymore. And so it's like, you can't, like, that's 20 years of like really good friendships. You really enjoy each other. You're like, why do you want to let that go? Anyway, so, building, it was time. So I really like once I built the time, then I built the systems that were going to help me create better and stronger relationships. Then that's kind of how the rebuild started. So, what I go ahead, Casey, you came off mute.
No, I was going to say, so taking control of your time and then I, I mean, there's so much to say about the relationship aspect of it, right? Because there's so many people that want to not build relationships and attempt to buy relationships through leads. And at the end of the day, whether you have a lead that comes to you or you have a relationship, you've got to create a relationship with the person in order to convert that to business. And so it, there is such a, there's such a resistance, I find, for agents that want to or don't want to pick up the phone or go to that event or hold that open house and instead like, well, do you have a lead you can give me? Do you have a lead you can give me? And then pay dearly to get those leads when they need the same skill set to convert the lead that they do the relationship in the first place. So now that agent is just out of money, not going to have a business that's profitable or sustainable in the long term, and it's a recipe for disaster, right? And so I think that this like those aspects of those two things are so very important. So keep going. Let's talk about what you did next specifically.
Okay. So, in rebuilding relationships, again, it was all about time because you can only, I'm one person and I only have so much time in one day, right? So I had to learn how to not only rebuild my relationships, but how to like make those relationships start to run on autopilot. So how could I learn to get time back? Because time is your most precious commodity. It's really the only thing you have control over in this business. You have control over nothing else, literally. Well, and how much money you spend. Okay, two things. But like that's it. You have control of your time and control of how much money you're going to spend. But so once I rebuilt the relationships, I essentially went and said, okay, now I want to figure out how to nurture these on autopilot. Because yeah, the very first thing is picking up the phone. The very first thing is picking up the phone. But the second thing is, how do I stay in touch with this person without me having to like actually think about it? Because there's more brain power, right? Because I want to grow. And the more I have to think in my business, the less I have time to think on my business. And I want to always be on. Honestly, I'd much rather be on my business than ever working in my business. I don't really like to work in my business. Like, that's kind of where I'm at now. I like to just be on. I like to like think and vision and be like, okay, have people do it for me because yay, let's get an idea, make it go. But like that, in order for me to get to that point, I had to learn how to use leverage. I had to learn how to use automations and leverage and certain tools and systems and instill the right habits in order to be able to make those relationships work for me. I had to learn how to build the foundations of my business. And I can show you some of that here in just a second, but I had to learn how to build some of the foundations of my business so that I can create raving fans. How many of you on this call have read the book Raving Fans? I hope everybody says yes. If you have not, I would love you to go and read. No, don't listen, but read the book. Because I read that book 2 to 3 times a year. It is all about systems and automation and how those are what make your clients become your raving fans. Like raving fans don't come to you because you were nice to them. Raving fans don't come to you because you gave your clients gifts. That's not why. Raving fans come to you because you are a business person, you are a professional. Let's think about the last time you sent a referral to a business. Who was it? Let me just all think about that for just a second. Who's the last person you sent a referral to? And when you sent them that referral, did you send the referral because they were nice or because they gave you gifts? The answer is probably no. The answer is probably I didn't send the referral because they gave me a nice closing gift. I didn't send a referral because they sent me an email every anniversary that I sold a home. I sent someone to them because I knew and I trusted 100% that their system was going to get the job done and do it effectively and efficiently. So that's what I did. It's called Raving Fans. Andy asked for it. So if you haven't read that book, I would love you to read that book because that's what it's all about. So here's what I want to show you. I can show you a couple of things. So I want to go back to just a second ago. Is it okay if I just kind of take over for a second, Casey? Okay. Because I'm about to, so it's going to happen.
It's you. Go. Game on.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
staying on mute.
All right.
Or I'll raise my hand. How's that?
Fair. Okay. So Selena reminded me to take my camera off blur, and then we can probably even spotlight this because if you want to, it might be easier for everyone to see. But I want to go back to like a few seconds ago, and I was talking about like what it was like to go on burnout. Okay. So these are like, I just did a brain dump of all the things that I was feeling at that time because I thought that would be super helpful. I call it the trap, and the trap means that burnout is ahead. So if you are experiencing any of these things, this is your path, just so you know. If you're experiencing that you're very reactive to the market, and when I say reactive to the market, it's like there's a lot of things going on in the real estate industry, you guys. There's a lot of things right now that are trying to take real estate agents down. Right. And so I hear, because I talk to agents all day, every day, I hear that people are just reactive. People don't want to buy. People don't want to sell. Buyer's agency agreement, clear cooperation, blah, 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 all the things. Right. And so what happens is we find ourselves being super reactive to it and unable to pull out of it and see like, how can we actually use all these changes to our advantage and better our services? We just react. I was feeling like I had no control over anything. Like a buyer would call or a seller would call and I'd have to answer the phone right away. On top of that, they were the wrong client. So if you've ever dreaded picking up the phone, talking to a client, yeah, the one that's going to talk to you for like 12 hours, or one that's going to take 45 minutes just to ask them to sign one document. Yeah, that's not the right client for me. Like, that's not the right client for me. And that was like kind of what I was dealing with. Like, if you've ever felt like you have no time, no focus, you're inconsistent. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this feeling inconsistent. This is probably one of the number one pains that I hear from a lot of real estate agents is inconsistency in their business, whether it be in money, whether it be in income, whether it be in just, follow up. Like I'm inconsistent with following up. I'm inconsistent with calling people back. I'm inconsistent with lead generation. I'm inconsistent with content. I'm inconsistent with this and this and this and this. You're just feeling like just overwhelmingly inconsistent, right? That's going to keep you stuck. This one here, long hours. It's not a badge of honor to work 13 hours a day, just so you know. My badge of honor is 4 hours a day. I love it. I love working in my real estate business. Maybe 3 to 4 hours a week right now is kind of how much I work in my real estate business, and I love it. But this is not a badge of honor. Feeling like you're on a rat race. Anyone ever feel like you're on a rat race? Like business up, business down, leads, or they always have to feel always on. And the worst part is feeling guilty. So this is one thing that I was really experiencing when I went into this whole phase is I was feeling really guilty all the time. I was feeling guilty. If I said yes to business, I felt guilty for my husband and my life, right? If I said yes to my husband, I felt guilty for my business. I was just feeling guilty, like just this like imbalance of like always feeling guilty and feeling lost. And so the reason I wanted to kind of go back to that for a second was because I think there's so much more. There's so many so many signs that agents are having right now. Here, I can move that a little bit, but there's so many signs that agents are having right now that like, if you look at any of these things and you're feeling 1, 2, 3 of these and you don't make some changes, you're going to run into this burnout mode. And the thing I can tell you about burnout mode is like, yeah, like it was like this process of firing myself and rehiring myself. But the rebuild process was there. I'm very, very, very happy and glad that I did it. But like, if I had known these things up front, if I had been able to say, hey, this is where I'm headed because I'm feeling a very, very series of these, a lot of these, if I had known this is where I was headed, maybe I would have changed something beforehand. Maybe I would have stopped. Maybe I would have figured out how can I get this inconsistency to go away? Maybe I can figure out how to stop working 13, 14, 15 hours a day. Okay. It's not cool to be a workaholic. Okay. We like to define ourselves as workaholics sometimes in this industry, but like, there's a difference between having purpose in what you do and feeling fulfilled in what you do than just working a lot of hours. And so today I'm very purpose driven. I'm very fulfilled. So yeah, I'm kind of work, if you want to call it work a lot, but it's not really work anymore. Whereas this is what I was still feeling. So if I had experienced or had known about any of these up front, I would have seen that this is the path. And burnout looks like and feels like this. Burnout feels like physically, like you can't get out of bed in the morning. Like the only thing you want to do is cry. Like, you're emotional. You want to yell at people all the time. You have no patience. Like your emotional intelligence like goes down. All of a sudden your emotional quotient, your EQ goes way down, right? Because you're just so burnt out and you're exhausted. And then someone like me who loves fitness, you find yourself like dreading even the things that have always brought you joy. So I will tell you, beyond just like what happened financially, emotionally, like the physical feeling of burnout was definitely not something I would ever want to recommend or have anybody else go through. And so if hopefully one of these signs here, if you're experiencing any one of these things, just know it's really easy to change. It's not easy, but simple. Okay, it's a lot of hard work, but it's very simple to change. And usually it's a shift of one thing, right? A shift of one thing. I did a bunch of things. Okay. And I learned that I shifted, I got rid of a bunch of things, but I shifted one thing, right? I shifted my relationships. I shifted my focus because my focus was before on saying yes. I'm literally yes. How many calls do we get a day from people who want to sell us their latest, greatest marketing? Right? How many emails do you get about all the new AI tools? How many like coaches do you have coming to you trying to sell you the coaching program? How many like, you know what I mean? You're just saying yes to everything. You have a referral that's like 20 miles away or 20 hours away. I don't know, however, whatever your distance is, right? You take a referral in a market you don't really know that well when somebody else in that market might actually be better served to help them, but you say yes because you're so scared of not having that commission come in. Right. So that's burnout. That's when you're like, I have to say yes. You're getting hungry. You're getting like greedy for all of the money to say yes. Like, and that's really what it felt like is that I had to say yes to people. So that's kind of like what I would say is like how I would define it. So if you're, like I said, if you're feeling any of these things, no focus, that's a big one too. If you're feeling any of these things, just know like I'm going to show you a couple of things that you can do today that will help you in overcoming this. And the very first thing is really starting with managing your time. So I know Debbie's probably really good at time management just because I know Debbie and I know what her schedule looks like. So I know she's probably really good at it. But most people, most real estate agents. And if you want to like respond in the chat and you want to tell me, you want to have a vulnerable moment and say, yeah, I have opportunities with my time management. Like, let me know. Like, I would like is there anyone on this call who really struggles with taking control of your time? You show up late to meetings, you drop everything for a client, you you commit to doing something, but you don't actually get it done because something else came up. Does anybody else go through that?
Celine
Okay.
wrote in the chat. She said me.
Lean said me. Yeah. Another Deanna raised her hand. Vanessa overcommits. Yeah. Because Vanessa, you're saying yes to too many things. You're saying yes to too many things. So yeah, Celine says, even this is a real, yeah, this happens all the time. Even as I'm on this call, my phone is blowing up and I keep getting distracted. So like, and that's normal I mean, I shouldn't say it's normal, but it's what we accept as normal in real estate, right? We've normalized answering the phone as fast as you can. We've normalized speed to lead. We've normalized answering our phone at 1 o'clock in the evening, 1 o'clock in the morning when a lead comes in. We've normalized being like, very first, I got to get back to you right now. We've normalized it because we've said like, that's the only way to make money. That's the only way to grow. But instead, what we're doing or what we should be doing is we should be normalizing saying no. We should be normalizing boundaries. And that's really what I did when I rebuilt is I set a lot of boundaries. I actually have a time blocking training that, if it's okay, Casey, we can send it to you, and or Lynea, and you guys can send it out or whatever. But I actually have a time blocking training that shows you exactly how I time block my time. But what I did is I really started with shifting my mindset around time. I really started shifting my mindset because, like a lot of people, I felt like if I had blocks on my calendar, it meant that I was going to be super rigid and super strict in my schedule. And so, while yes, time blocking is to allow yourself time to do certain things, time blocking really turns out to be creating space for the things that actually matter. That's what time blocking really is. So, what I did is I went and said, okay, I love this two-sided whiteboard. It's so cool. The best investment I ever made in my business. Okay. So what I learned is the ultimate system, the ultimate thing I had to do was learn time mastery, because time mastery is really freedom. Okay. Mastering your time is ultimate freedom, because ultimately what you're doing is you're creating space for what actually matters. Right. So I bet you, Celine, if you're looking at your phone, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. It'd be cool if you did. But if you're looking at your phone and you're seeing all these distractions, how many of them actually matter? And when I say matter, how many of them are giving you purpose? How many of those distractions are giving you life? How many of those distractions are making you feel fulfilled? Usually the answer to that is none. Usually all the distractions that are coming in our way, those are all things that are literally just trying to keep us on that rat race cycle. So I learned that I had to shift my mind around what mastering my time really is. And this is what it's all about. It's creating space for what actually matters. And I put this here on the right as close to me as possible, because this is what I think it all boils down to every single time. Every single time. What actually matters in this moment. What actually matters in this moment. And right now in this moment, yeah, I probably have a bunch of distractions coming in all the time, but I don't see them. Okay. It's more than just do not disturb mode. It's about getting your mindset right and understanding that, yeah, even do not disturb is just a trigger to help you shift your mindset, right? It's a tool to help you shift your mindset, but it's more about, like, right now, what matters on this call is learning, right? You're here to learn. You're here to absorb. You're here to like do something that actually matters. So you're mastering the time and you're creating the space for that. I learned, I had to understand that in mastering my time, it was all about leverage, right? I love leverage. Anybody else like the word leverage? I love the word leverage. It's my favorite thing. My favorite thing about leverage is leveraged income. That's my favorite thing, my favorite type of leverage. But mastering your time is all about leverage. The better you are at mastering your time, the more leverage you can create. The more leverage you can create, the more money you can actually earn. Anyway, okay, so other thing about time mastery is I put ideal here and then I crossed it out intentionally, because I think there's a difference between ideal and perfect. There's a big difference between ideal and perfect. And a lot of times we like to talk about our ideal client avatar, right? We talk about who's that target client, who's the ideal client. I don't care about ideal. I want the perfect client. I want the perfect client. And the reason I say that is because there are some clients who might be ideal, but they might not be perfect. But those perfect clients are the ones who are going to be my raving fans. Those are the ones who are going to send me referrals. Those are the ones who are going to keep my business going time and time and time again. So mastering your time leads to understanding your perfect client and only making time for those people. And then you get to say no to everyone else. I love saying no. It's like my favorite word to say. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I'm good. Love it. No thanks. I don't think I'm a good fit for you. My favorite thing to say to clients, people now is, unfortunately, I think we have a values misalignment. So I'm going to refer you to someone else who I think might be better aligned with you. I love, love, love that line, because there's a lot of things in understanding the perfect client that is important to me. The values, our values have to align. Our values have to align, because I don't want to work with people whose values don't align with me. The other thing that I learned with time mastery is this is sustainable growth. So I have built systems into my business that help me with everything from automating my marketing, automating my relationship nurturing, automating my onboarding, automating my transaction management, and automating everything post-closing. So I built all of those systems that actually automate pretty much everything. I'm involved just a little bit. I'm involved in like saying hi and calling my people and, doing the things that I love to do, which is talk, if you couldn't figure that out. But I have learned to automate so many of those things. Casey asked, what do I use to automate? Well, I'll give you, Tyler can probably jump in here with some of the automation tools also. He's on the call. But when it comes to lead, I'll give you one or two tools that I use to automate within each category. So lead generation, I use ManyChat on Instagram. Okay. I also use Zapier to get them into my CRM because of my CRM, which is Follow Up Boss. We then have automated campaigns that I've personally gone and written. You write once, leave it, right? We use Follow Up Boss for our CRM. And within Follow Up Boss, we have so many different automations that go out depending on where they're at in their phase. So that's how we essentially nurture that and automate that. When it comes to automating the client onboarding process, again, it's workflows built out through Follow Up Boss. So we use a lot of videos in the onboarding process. We record it through Loom. It does include sending out our contracts early that are recorded so people can actually see us walk through contracts, so I don't have to spend my time on calls walking through contracts. We automate the appointment setting process. We automate pretty much all of it. And I'm going to tell you the other thing that's really cool about it is that my clients have no idea. Because I've personally gone through and I've basically written every single email from the time they say, hey, they're raising their hand to the time the appointment actually comes into me, from the time they actually like sign a contract with me. And then from the time they sign a contract to the time they write an offer or go to the market, like there's so many different pieces inside our campaigns that have been personally written by me and get tons of responses because it looks like I actually wrote it. So, and then I'll tell you the trick to mastering your past client relationships. Just so you know, there's two tools I use. I'll tell you right now. I know there's a lot of squirrels out there looking at this other tool called Fellow, which is way too much money, in my opinion. I use HomeBot. It's $27.35 in Washington State after tax, and you can have 500 people in there. And if you send people out, it integrates directly with Follow Up Boss. Follow Up Boss will send people into HomeBot. And depending on the stage that you set inside Follow Up Boss, inside your deals in Follow Up Boss, it will then turn them into a buyer or a seller or a homeowner in HomeBot. And then HomeBot sends you the emails and you're like, okay, cool. I've got my top 10 to call every single week. And I don't have to do anything other than call them. That's it. That's it. So that's a lot of the automations that we use. And that's how you build sustainable growth, right? That's how you that's how you create boundaries. Because, right, but what I was doing before is I was like, okay, so I got this client signed a buyer agreement. This client signed a listing agreement. Okay, I have these million things. Bringing a listing to the market is a lot of work. There's a lot of things you have to do, right? Just beyond the paperwork, you're like, okay, I got to plan the marketing. I got to schedule the video. I got to do this. I got to do that. And the thing is, you can have an assistant do it for you. Absolutely. Or you can automate a lot of it and then you pay less money, right? Because you just have someone kind of oversee the systems. But that's really what we started using with all of our onboarding and all of our past clients. So HomeBot, and the second one we use is Client Giant. So if you've never heard of Client Giant, highly recommend you do. It is an amazing tool because what you can do is you can, Homeboy. I love it. Whenever I type HomeBot, it always comes out Homeboy. I'm just going to start calling it Homeboy. But what the thing about Client Giant is you can automate your welcome gifts for your clients for listings and buyers. So they get a gift from us and no one knows it's automated, you guys. That's a cool thing. I mean, everyone in today's day and age, especially in a market like where we're at in Seattle, I mean, it's a very tech forward market that we're here. So like people expect there to be technology involved. I'm just going to put that out there. But we send out gifts when they sign a contract with us, whether it be a buyer agreement or a listing agreement. We send out gifts once they get in contract. We send out a gift once they close. And then we set them up. If they're a buyer, we set them up to receive a gift from us once a year. But I'm going to tell you, that's not the reason people send referrals. People don't come to me for the gifts. They come to me because I have created control of my business. I've shown them in the onboarding process through automations consistency, which have created consistency, I have shown them that I'm going to get the job done, that I'm going to take care of them. So the gifts just help me stay top of mind. But what makes them come back to me is because I have created consistency. I've created control. So they come to me and they understand that, yeah, I'm a business owner now, right? So I'm not just someone who's like providing good service, because the thing is that, a lot of times I think real estate agents have a hard time understanding their value proposition. And so really getting clear on your value proposition is super, super important. And my value proposition is that I am going to make mid to executive level career professionals, I'm going to make their process of buying and selling as seamless and efficient as possible. That's my value proposition. So that is what I will say. Now, I know I kind of jumped to there from here, but I need you to understand that none of that happened without me taking control of my time. None of that happened, because before I was doing all the things, but I was feeling like this because I had no control over my time. I had no consistency. I was like, shoot, I'm late on this gift. I'm late on this gift. And I was like feeling guilty and beating myself up because I forgot to do something one time, or because I am such a high performer, like many of us in real estate, and I'm a very high D, probably figured that out too. I know, shocking, right? But because of that, I was like I have this level of expectation that I expect, this level of service that I expect all of my clients to receive. And that was what ultimately was creating the burnout. It was creating this unsustainable cycle, this vicious cycle of trying to meet my own expectations. And every time I would miss because I had too many things on my plate, too much business, I was feeling no control over anything, no control over my time. I was missing those things, right? So I started beating myself up. And then, yes, I felt like I was doing everything I could. So when that happened that moment happened with my husband, I was I'm doing everything I can. I'm working my ass off right now. I'm working so hard. And I'm still not meeting my own expectations. Now I'm not meeting your expectations either, right? So that's not a good feeling, right? So I had to figure out how to meet my own expectations. Because if I can at least meet my own expectations and automate that, if I can master my time, and it's going to create all of these things for me, then the only relationship I have to focus on and put effort into is my marriage. And that's the relationship that I want to focus on. That's the relationship I want to put effort into, right? So I don't get me wrong. I put a lot of effort into myself. Anyone who knows me can answer that question. There's a lot of effort that goes here, but it's all because I've created the space in my life now for what actually matters, right? I've created this space, and it's given me leverage. It's given me the ability to grow sustainably. Right now, I've got 17 deals in the pipeline. 16 of them are listings, and 17 of them are from referrals. So 0 lead generation, 0 nothing. And the funny thing is, I was telling Kim the other day, I'm not even focusing on my real estate business this year. Like, I'm not even focusing on it. And I'm like, wow, that's the power of systems. That's the power of automation. That's the power of time mastery. So understanding this and understanding, like, having to shift my mindset and then create these things, and then following the training that we have for you if you want to watch it. That is what created all of this space for me. So I say no more than yes. I've got purpose. I've got consistency. The most important thing, as a person who has been avid weightlifter for the last 20 years, the one thing I can tell you that's really important to me is consistency. Things don't happen overnight. You literally, like, what you're going to build, what you're going to start today is going to build over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And I just look at it because I look at fitness. One thing, there's so many relationships between business and fitness, but I started lifting weights 30 years ago, really. I took 10 years off of lifting weights, went back to it 20 years ago. And today I can be like, well, I don't ever have to like do a crash to try to make myself feel good for the summertime. Like, I don't ever like, I have habits and I have systems in place that allow me to have that freedom now to not have to worry about summertime coming up, or the things that other people have to worry about because they haven't spent the last 20 years putting in the work. And so that is what time mastery, that is the system, those are the habits. And I'm going to tell you that I hope you can you watch the training and learn the how behind it, how I actually did it, because I think that's way more better to just watch on a training and then do it. I tell you in the training, like, here's what I do. Now I want you to stop. I want you to do it yourself. So it's a actual like tactical training. This is the stuff I really want you to understand. Like, if you can understand, these are the things you should be looking for right now. If you're experiencing any of these, there's a path ahead for you. Okay. Or you can choose to master your time, and the path is freedom.
I love that. So many great nuggets. And as I am, the one thing that is in common with all of them is personal discipline, right? We always say awareness before change. And so with that awareness, then applying the disciplines. And what the great thing about everything that you shared today is that if one can do it, anyone can do it. And I love that there's a blueprint to be able to do that. So nobody can, be flailing out there saying, well, I didn't know, or that doesn't work for me. It's like, no, you just didn't execute, because that's obviously very clear. So thank you in advance for being willing to share what that training is. And we'll include it in the follow-up email that has this recording. If there was one more thing that you wanted to say just in closing in our last 60 seconds together, for people to walk away with today based on everything that based on your experience and everything that you've learned over the years of being who you are and executing in the way that you do, what would be that one thing for everyone?
There is a difference between habits. Actually, I shouldn't say there's a foundation between habits and systems, right? The foundation of habits and systems is choices. So you have to make a choice to change a habit. You have to make a choice to change your life, because once you make that choice and you commit to that choice and you make that choice every day, then the habits that you need to build, to create the freedom path that you want will happen. But you have to choose, and you have to like not waver on that decision. So a lot of times I see that people are they're just thinking. They're like, I don't know. They're wavering on making a decision any way, shape, or form. Like, whatever that decision is, we're wavering on a decision. And all of that right there is a waste of your time. All of that is a waste of your time. So, and I'm not saying that just because I am a high D, I make decisions fast. Yes, there are people who don't make decisions as fast as me. But the thing is, like, once you make a decision, first of all, you have to choose to make a decision. And then once you make the decision, then you have to implement the habits and the systems and the tools that are going to help you accomplish that all day, every day, forever.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for everything that you shared. Incredible value, and we'll look forward to having you back in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Follow me on Instagram, everybody. If you want to, just go follow me on Instagram. I'm just going to plug that out there.
All right,
Follow me on
Tony said this
Instagram.
is exactly what I need, and I'm in 1,000% take action. All right, everyone, make it a great day, and we will see you on the next Free Friday coaching call, which will be the first Friday of June. Bye, everyone.